What's good, y'all? My name is Lucas Lyons, and we got some things to talk about. So, it's Racial Puberty 13. I got my notes here, got my books here. We're going to try to make this video short and sweet. Just got a couple things I had to get off my chest, a couple things on my mind at the moment. And I wanted to have this theme tonight when we talk about racial puberty and the nuances of building your racial stamina and having these conversations about race and replacing white supremacy with actual justice. You know, Malcolm X, rest in peace, he talks about this knife in one's back, and you stick it in there and you pull it out. You stick it in there 9 inches, pull it out 6 inches. That is not progress. And you know, this is something to keep in mind, because I know on this channel often I speak of things that have been done to Black people. And, you know, Martin Luther King Jr. talks about how it's the highest form of maturity to be able to look inward, have that introspection in your own culture and think about your own culture. And I definitely talk about some of that too. And I will get to some of that, but mainly this channel is to build that racial puberty when it comes to understanding what needs to be demanded. Because we're going to get to this later on in the show, but what needs to be demanded and what needs to happen. And this is why I find it difficult to have I can't have these conversations, these cultural conversations with people besides ADOS, besides other Black people. Because once you start talking about what has been done to us, then it becomes a sort of victim mentality thing, when no, we can have that conversation about our own culture and what needs to change within our own culture. And don't get me wrong, things can need to change. But this channel's primary goal is to speak facts, speak data, you know, give some subjective thoughts, and just really raise awareness. And that kind of goes to what we're going to talk about later on, regarding housing and what Biden is trying to do now. We're going to talk about that later, but I like to keep that in mind about the progress that's being made, and how we don't want to get that okey doke with thinking that just because the knife has been pulled out a few inches, we have made some sort of progress. And Biden's doing, he put the knife in there, now he's pulling it out a little bit, talking about making progress, but we're going to get there. But rest in peace, Malcolm X. But that's going to be sort of the theme. But before we get into all that, this was something that happened Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, I believe. Didn't get to it, but I'm going to talk about it briefly. This ain't it. This is not it. And this is not it for a few reasons. The primary reason is this is disrespectful to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., what he fought for, what the civil rights movement was for. And I'm actually also going to shout out Chrissie's YouTube channel. I'll put in the link in the description below, because there's a Black woman talking about how this is not it. You know, I try to, you know, stay in my place, even within Black culture. You know, women obviously have a very specific voice as well, and I don't want to contribute to sort of that policing of Black women's bodies. But to twerk on the Washington Monument, to sort of reclaim something, no, not at all. This is not it for a few reasons. The primary reason is, again, there's no place for this. You can call it trying to reclaim and reappropriate this over-sexualization of Black women and twerking. You could have done this somewhere else, but to do it in sort of this sacred, seldom place on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, to sort of draw attention to it, to Black Lives Matter, no. And I don't even think Black Lives Matter has come out and said anything about this. Yeah, the reaction was unexpected, but expected at the same time. I don't even know what that means. Where is Black Lives Matter in this? And, you know, people give a lot of heat to Black Lives Matter, and I'm neither here nor there, because I agree with the sentiment of Black Lives Matter. But where are they in this public disaster, this fiasco, having this Black woman? And, you know, shout out to Chrissie. You should check her YouTube channel out. She talks about how, you know, this super woman, this Black woman soldier that has to look at Amanda Gorman, how they got her holding America in her high heel boots, holding America up. And, you know, Chrissie has a pretty good analysis of this, and how They try to get this black woman to, I don't even know what's going on here. And Black Lives Matter, shame on you for not speaking out about this and saying this was not it. This was a mistake. This did not help the black cause in any way, shape, or form. And I really want to talk to, from this LA Times article here, we have this woman, Professor Amin, who works as a dance professor, saying, I don't find it salacious or problematic compared to some of the depictions of twerking that I've seen in popular music videos. Pretty tame. This is not a popular music video. This is a woman twerking to celebrate Martin Luther King Jr. Day, the civil rights movement. No, this is actually taking away from that movement. It's distracting is what it is. It's distracting is what it is. And then we have another woman, Miss Holiday, another professor, saying, pointing to respectability politics and the idea that marginalized groups are told to uphold and teach one another to behave in a way that comforts the white norm. Black women are expressing joy. Black women are controlling their bodies. I'm all for that. But to do it on Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday, on the Washington Monument, I mean, I don't even know what else to say about this. I'm spending up too much time on this. People forget King had sex. He had lots of kids. He cheated on his wife. He was a human. Not good, sure. But you're connecting that to twerking on his birthday in 2021 as some sort of form of activism when you could be out here. Why not twerk and talk about reparations somewhere? Like what? Like this seems like you're just drawing attention to yourself. Bad attention, Black Lives Matter. Bad attention. Not a good look. Twerking on the Washington Monument, not a good look. Nah. Again, check the link in the description. Chrissie does a way better job talking about this. And I'm not going to talk about Amanda Gorman too much. I really highly recommend you check her video out because, shout out, congratulations to Amanda Gorman getting them deals out here, doing what you got to do. Talking about descendants of slaves, not too much, but she touched on it in her poem. But this right here, people are celebrating this right here, and I see what Chrissie's talking about with this sort of supernatural ability that Black women have, being the backbone of the country and saving the world. And I'm not saying that they're not up to the task, but I do see how that can be destructive, and how putting images like this young 22-year-old girl carrying this older white man, again, in her red high heel boots, like, we have to be very aware of the type of, symbolism and the imagery that's put out there. And this right here is very, very dangerous. Very, very dangerous for reasons that Chrissie's I don't agree with Chrissie all the time about some things, but she brings up some very cogent points. So I highly recommend that you check that video out. So yeah, just two quick things on that. And then again, check my other video out talking about white ghosts and how the military has been or has forever been sort of infected with white supremacists, and how we have to just be careful. Nearly 1 in 5 defendants in Capitol riot case served in the military. Veterans here. They're seeking out veterans, and veterans are they're acquiescing to this sort of extremism. Nearly 20% of the defendants who tried to have a coup against America planted these IEDs around, and we're not talking about the IEDs enough. Who planted the IEDs around the Capitol? 20%. Come on now. If there's a little bit of, I forget who said the analogy, but if there was a little bit of dog poo in a sandwich, if there's 1% of dog poo in a sandwich, would you still eat that sandwich? So even if it was 1% of defendants in the Capitol riots, come on now. What? And don't get me started. In the last video, we talked about how the National Guard was getting vetted and how nearly a dozen before the inauguration had to be sent home and discharged. Sheesh. All right. Moving on to our main man, Biden. Yeah. So I'm not going to talk about his executive orders. There's a lot of other videos in Black media talking about his executive orders. One of the main reasons I don't want to talk specifically to them is because I'd have to mention immigration. And I hate juxtaposing, but sometimes it has to be done. the immigrant population, specifically Latinx and Central America, Mexicans, people from the Caribbean, uh, Latinx people, making that juxtaposition to ADOS to Black people or other Black immigrants can become problematic, specifically in the Black community, and it creates this tension between immigrants and Native Black people, which we know has been around for a while, we know still exists today. So I really don't want to get into the executive actions, but it's clear that the people that put Biden in office, Black people, the people that turned Georgia blue, the people that gave the Senate to Democrats, are not the people who are best being served at the moment, are not the people within his first 7 days, are the people who are, you've had my back and I will always have yours. That's not true. But then, Kamala Harris said, I'm not going to do anything that benefits Black people. Black people still voted for them in droves. We'll talk about that. But he is talking about housing. And I wanted to talk about housing very quickly because there's this phenomenal book, Richard Rothstein, The Color of Law. If you haven't read it, please do. How he says in very plain terms, most segregation in this country was done on the state and federal level. And we now have him coming in and sort of saying, we need more research, we need more studies. What other research, what other more studies do we need? We need reparations is what we need. And again, reparations, not just go to ADOS101.com. It's not just about a check. It's not just about money, even though money's a part of it. It's about a holistic remedies for the Black community. So, now we have him trying to pass this executive order, talking about fair housing. And, this PBS article has this woman, Marjorie Turner, and she's talking about how it's going to take a lot of work. And in this, we get sort of this Black people talk, this people of color talk, this underdeserved community talk. I really need to hear more ADOS talk. That's what I need to hear. And because initially I was a little nervous to talk about ADOS and say that because of how divisive it is. No, it's actually very much necessary. One of the things she says, a tremendous amount of excellent work has been done in the Obama administration to craft this regulation, affirmatively furthering fair housing, which, according to that Richard Rothstein book, is going to give jurisdictions that receive federal funds the ability to firmly further the purposes of the law. So you're going to give these suburbs for federal funds, or the ones that receive federal funds, more ability to already follow the law. And one of the things he talks about in this book as well, highly recommend it, is that the damage has already been done. Even when the FHA came to be in 1968, I believe, the damage has already been done. And the damage continued to be done for years after that. But by the time the FHA came around, the damage has already been done. And anything that's coming after that has to be just as rigorous as the discrimination, as the racism, as the white supremacy was to put these policies in the first place. And what do we mean by more rigorous? We're talking about reparations here. Like, there's no way you can talk about, Biden talks about systemic racism and the soul of the nation. I hear that one more time. There's no way you can talk about dismantling systemic racism without talking about reparations. It is impossible at this point. It is impossible. And it is disrespectful as well when you have somebody like Biden in the office who, again, is in there because of Black people and not even being a priority. So, yeah, it's good to have a Biden, I guess, doing this now, but housing inequality and like there needs to be a public apology constantly. And Isabel Wilkerson talks about this in her book Caste, how when you go to Germany, there's Holocaust memorabilia. I don't think that's the right word. Remembrance pieces everywhere, so that you don't forget. That you always know. It's always in the back of your mind that this is what this country was, and we can't move farther as a country if we don't acknowledge this. And there needs to be a constant reminder, constantly, about the local, state, and federal violence that has helped contribute majorly to put Black people in the position that we're in today. And this executive order, this issue of housing inequality, whatever Biden does, whatever recognition of it, whatever policies he put in place, if it's not about reparations, it's not enough. It needs to be addressed early and often, and he's not even doing that. And again, who put him in office? Who put him up? Who put him in office? Right. I also want to talk about these remarks. When do you get these remarks? Executive order on racial equity. These remarks. Again, I'm not going to bring up any other groups. Not going to bring up any other groups. Other groups are mentioned here. But we non-white people winning this together. I got to talk about ADOS though. He had the audacity in his racial equity remark. This ADOS, this is why we need a separate platform. We need to be in a separate category. Black and Latino Americans are dying of COVID-19 at rates nearly 3 times that of whites. Okay, yeah. And it's not white Americans' fault, but it's just a fact, and the Americans know it, especially the younger ones. And it's not white Americans' fault, but it's just a fact. In science, everything has a cause and effect, right? It's not white Americans' fault. In Chaos or Community, where do we go from here? Dr. King specifically says it is white America to bear the brunt of the guilt of the Negro's position. It's not white Americans' fault. It's just a fact. The only logical conclusion one can get to by saying, all right, so expand that a little bit. Black and Latinos, blacks, let's talk about black ADOS, dying at a rate nearly 3 times that of white Americans. Might be a little even higher. Have what? 1/100th of the wealth that white families have. Living in ghettos, engineered by the federal government. So if it's not white Americans' fault, if it's not the greater white populace's fault, the only other logical conclusion is that ADOS did this to ourselves. Like it's us. That's the only logical conclusion. If the fault can't be placed on the people that put these policies in place, the populace that hasn't demanded more, because black people have been demanding this for a while. If it's not white Americans' fault, and they're 75% of the country, and I'm aware of what's happening, I'm aware of what needs to be done, but things haven't been put in place to reverse it, the only logical conclusion is that black people sort of put this on ourselves and that we want this. And this is what I find so disrespectful about these comments here, is that it's just a fact. Like, no bragging, just a fact. Like, what? You as the president who black people put into place, who gave you Congress, you need to be saying again, early, often, every day, we need to correct this local, state, and federal violence that we put in place on Negroes. Don't say Negroes, but when I say Negroes, I mean ADOS. That's what needs to be said. It's just a fact. Where do you think fact? Like, there's a cause and effect. This is an effect of the last 400 years. 2019 will make 400 years of violence against black people. Come on, look, physical violence, emotional violence, spiritual violence. It's just a fact. That's disrespectful. That's disrespectful, y'all. That's not okay. Yeah, I had to touch on that real quick. And to talk about this Vox article really quickly, shout out to Yvette Carnell and ToneTalks who talk about this. Wealth can absorb the blow of a recession. I mean, please read it. He talks about how black people were left worse off when Obama left. The Great Black Recession of 2008. We lost a third of our wealth. White people lost a tenth. Obama, what did he do? Nothing. Read Eddie Glaude's book, Democracy in Black. I don't want to touch on it too much. This video is already going on too long. But we don't have the wealth to absorb a recession. We don't have the wealth to not have to pay student loans, to get gifts, to get homes passed out. We don't have that. We need the reparations in place. We don't have this to absorb anything. We're going through COVID right now. We can't go to, and one of the things this article talks about is how black people have to take care of their older relatives, parents, grandparents, when it's supposed to be the other way around. That's what generational wealth is. Come on now. Get you a copy. Shout out to Sandy Darity, William Darity, Dr. Darity. From here to equality. Come on now. I can't even get into it, but check the links in the description. Receipts for you. And before we keep going, when it comes to Obama Biden, classic. Before we end this video, the Obama Biden administration, Biden, one of the most strident drug warriors, shout out to Michelle Alexander. The Obama administration chose to increase the funding for the burn programs 12-fold, not in response to any sudden spike in crime. It increased billions of dollars for the war on drugs, not because of a sudden spike on crime or any new studies, but instead handing law enforcement billions of dollars in cash is an easy, efficient jobs program in the midst of an economic crisis. Okay. So we got your boy Obama, Biden under him, vice president, doing what? Giving billions of dollars to the war on drugs for what? Policies from the 1994 crimes bill. From who? Joe Biden. But he's in office. Shit. I wish I could make this stuff up. But what are we expecting from this man? What are we expecting from this man? I'll tell you what we're expecting from this man. Is this your king? Putting Harriet on the $20 bill? Is this your king? We have our guy, Obama, once said he hoped the new $20 bills would become known as Tubmans instead of Benjamins. Is this a joke? Is this a joke? Obama, this is what you wanted it to be. And Yvette talked about it in one of her previous videos. This wasn't even because she was a black woman. It's because some woman said we need a woman on money, on the currency. I'm not going to get into how Harriet Tubman was a spy for the Union, how she freed thousands of slaves, how America doesn't deserve Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill. And they're gonna keep Jackson on the back of the 20. They're going to keep him on the back of the 20. They're going to keep Jackson on the back of the 20, though. But Biden going to do this for black people, right? I can't. Like the performance, the symbolism. I can't, y'all. And I've been saying this, and I've been telling people this. This is not what ADOS needs. I nobody want no Harriet Tubman on a $20 bill. Harriet Tubman, do you think if she was alive to, I forget what it is. You can't speak for dead people. She wants freedom. And freedom looks like reparations. To give ourselves our own opportunities in our own neighborhoods, in our own communities. And Obama joking around talking about how the $20 bill is going to be the new Tubman? What? What? I don't even know. But this is what it is. We out here can't absorb a blow of the recession. We lost a third of our wealth from 2008. But Biden and Obama talking about putting Tubman on the $20 bill. Tubmans? This is why we need ADOS politics. The disrespect is wild right now, and this has been happening forever. But I'm so glad that we're in a place now where we have black media, where we could talk about this more openly and more honestly. And I'm glad I'm in the mental state to be able to be here. And thank you for joining me on Racial Puberty. The last thing I was going to talk about, might save it for the next video, is understanding multiracial whiteness and Trump supporters. Talking about how people of other races and ethnicities want to benefit from white privilege by supporting it. Right. Yeah. Through violence, Isabel Wilkerson shouts. Isabel Wilkerson talking about this in Cass, how when people come to this country, no matter who you are, no matter how you're treated, what do you do to get accepted? You step on the throats of ADOS. Come on now. I don't know how else to say it. But look, this video has been going on too long. I just want to hop on here real quick, give some of my thoughts about what's currently happening in the country. ADOS, Racial Puberty 13. Give this video a like. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button if you appreciated this. Black media out here having honest conversations. And yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. As Demcod says, in the words of Malcolm X, the future belongs to those who prepare for it today. Peace.